In an era where innovation and resilience in healthcare are more crucial than ever, I have the privilege to virtually meet with the Indonesian Health Minister, Mr. Budi Gunadi Sadikin, a visionary leader steering Indonesia's health sector through transformative changes. The minister has championed a series of initiatives expanding quality health coverage and forging a path toward universal healthcare. With a focus on leveraging cutting-edge digital technologies and embedding environmental sustainability within health policies, the minister's efforts embody a bold vision for a healthier and more equitable Indonesia. In this exclusive interview, we uncover the minister's perspective on the pivotal role of innovation in healthcare, the critical lesson learned from managing a global health crisis, and the innovative strategies set to redefine healthcare in Indonesia and set a precedent for the region. Minister Budi, thank you for agreeing to join us for this interview.
Yes, good afternoon, Sophia. Good afternoon.
Minister, the COVID-19 pandemic has tested the resilience of healthcare worldwide. Indonesia, in particular, has implemented various innovative strategies to manage the crisis. So, in this context, would you mind telling us what are the innovative strategies has Indonesia implemented to manage the crisis and what lessons have been learned for future healthcare resilience?
We learned several things about resiliency during crisis because it is the time where it's really tested. The first thing that we learned, we don't have enough vaccine, therapeutic, or diagnostic tool. So all those three emergency medical countermeasures are not available in the country. Because of the pandemic, Africa to do a global lockdown. So the flow of goods, especially these three emergency medical countermeasures, we cannot get. So we learned something that we need to develop, at least for a country as big as Indonesia, a local capability to provide vaccine, therapeutics, or diagnostic tools in case there is another pandemic. So during the pandemic and before the pandemic, we only have one vaccine company, government owned. Now we have three vaccine company and two of them are private sector. The same of medicine manufacturer. We established, we almost triple the number of medicine manufacturers in the country. So those are the examples that we learned from the pandemic to strengthen our local manufacturing and research capability. The second thing that we learned is digitalization is very important because during pandemic the doctors cannot see the patient. The patient need to be isolated. So how can we make sure that the healthcare services can still be delivered? And thanks to technology, during that time we can gather together 17 startups, telemedicine startups in Indonesia to help in screening and do consultations remotely online.
Minister, as a newly appointed minister, actually, you was appointed in 2021 very recently amid the COVID-19 crisis. And as someone who actually doesn't have a background in the health sectors, Minister, how do you engage stakeholders? Like you said, a lot of startups joined your initiative.
When I came and I realized that the first job that I have to get done quickly is vaccination of 280 million Indonesians, spread in 7,000 inhabited islands out of our 17,000 islands. It is ridiculously almost impossible job to do. Then I sit for a week and I thought if this is a job that I cannot do it by myself. The government cannot do it by ourselves. But we have to do it together. So what we are doing is try to engage as many as possible private sector, government, non-government body, religious organization, school, university, alumni. So they are engaged because we have one objective, to overcome the pandemic. So again, the concept that healthcare intervention, healthcare sector is not something that you can do it individually. It has to do it together. it cannot be approached as a program, but as a movement. It's very, very important.
How do you gain the support from the political side to support your initiative to make it successful?
So two things happen. One, I'm lucky because it happened just after the pandemic. So all political person still remember, hey, we need to do something to improve our national healthcare system. And these are the guys that bringing in the new legislation, the new bills to do this reform. So it is easier for me to get political support. The second thing that is helping me also is that I used to be a banker. I lend money to everyone, including the politicians because they have companies. So they know me personally. They know me personally. So I can talk to them. So again, the connection, the personal communication at the key stakeholder politically, being a banker, that really helps.
So Indonesia minister has been at the forefront of developing healthcare innovations. Actually, it's not only serve the population of Indonesians, but also have the potential to transform global health as well, especially in regions with limited resources. So can you discuss breakthrough health initiatives developed in Indonesia that you believe could have a global impact, especially in low resource settings?
Uh, During the pandemic, Indonesia also the president of G20. So at that time, I have the opportunity to engage with my colleague, health minister from G20 countries. And we propose and achieve two things, which I believe is quite significant that can have an impact to other countries globally. The first one is healthcare sector cannot advance if there is no financial support. You know, but finance minister have a lot of priority. During COVID, when we are the president of G20, Indonesia are proposing that we have a joint finance and health minister task force. This is the first time in any international landscape that finance and health ministers sit together. And we formalize this in the leaders meeting. So every G20 meeting, there will be a joint finance and health task force. And it was replicated in G7 and also in APEC. So now all health ministers globally have a special access to finance minister, which is the one which just have a lot of money and control the money in every country. So now it has been established. It's become an envy for other ministry, education minister, defense ministry, and others. The second one, and we are proposing with the finance ministry of Indonesia, the pandemic fund. And with this pandemic fund, every country, if their financially is not strong, and there is another pandemic, they can have access quickly to this fund.
Minister Budi, this will be my last question. The integration of environmental sustainability into health sector policies is becoming increasingly important as we face the global challenges of climate change and also its impacts on the public health. So looking ahead, what role do you see for ASEAN countries in integrating environmental sustainability into health sector policies and initiatives, aiming to bolster long-term resilience and tackle the public health impacts of climate change as well?
So this pandemic when happened, it kills many more compared with conflict with human in terms of world war or conflict with nature in terms of natural disaster. And pandemic happened 80% coming from animals. So when climate change happened, you know, it changed the interactions between animals and humans, interaction between wildlife and humans. Human will be more exposed. And that's also increased the possibility for any pathogen, can be virus, parasite, or bacteria, jump from animal to human. And the human's immune system doesn't understand. So that's why, from my perspective, it's very, very clear that the environmentalists need to sit together with the healthiest, and also need to sit together with the animalist. I call it to sit together. Hey, see what is the impact of this environment. It's not only hit the human directly, but it also can kill hundreds of millions of humans indirectly because they change the way humans interact with animals, which is always historically that is why pandemic happen. The concept of global one health in healthcare sector we have a one health concept. So the health of animal and health of human is very important because they're linked to each other, especially the pathogen, the virus, bacteria, they link to each other. Then we should extend the One Health concept, the health of human, the health of animal, and also the health of the environment.
Minister Budi, our time is up. Thank you very much for taking the time to join our interview. I could see that your leadership serves as a beacon of hope and progress in these challenging times. Thank you very much, Mr. Budi.
Thank you, Sotia.